Again, time is fairly short today, and again, we apologize for having to squeeze all these great topics into one panel, but it's a great panel. The next topic, though, is climate change impacts on the economy. So let me read you some more scary numbers, or at least upsetting numbers. Mark Carney, governor of the Bank of England, has warned of the potential risks to global financial stability from a new threat to world economies, climate change. The Bank of England reported global insurance industry's annual weather-related losses at $200 billion a year, which is a four-fold increase in just 30 years. Scary number one. The Balkans have already begun to experience severe weather-related losses. In 2014, Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina sustained roughly 4 billion euros worth of losses from record-breaking floods that damaged roads, railways, power generation, energy and water deliveries, agricultural land, mining, homes, schools, and hospitals. The IMF World Economic Outlook forecast for the 2015 growth rate for Serbia it came in at a paltry 0.5% as a result of the flood damage to its economy, while growth rates in some other Balkan countries unaffected by such weather-related losses were listed as such. Montenegro 4.7%, Bosnia-Herzegovina 3.5%, Kosovo 3.3%, Fyrom 3.2%, Turkey 3.1%, Albania 3%. So you can see the impact on Serbia. Governor Carney is also chairman of the Financial Stability Board, which is the international body set up by the G20 in 2009 to monitor risks to the global financial system. In September of this year, Governor Carney said the challenges currently posed by climate change pale in significance compared with what might come. The far-sighted among you are anticipating broader global impacts on property, migration, and political stability, as well as food and water security. The horizon for monetary policy extends out to 2 to 3 years. For financial stability, it's a bit longer, but typically only to the outer boundaries of the credit cycle, about a decade. In other words, once climate change becomes a defining issue for financial stability, it may already be too late. So why isn't more being done to address it? In addition to the direct weather-related impacts on property and business infrastructure, additional global financial risks have been calculated by the Economist Intelligence Unit, which has warned that private investors are supposed to lose $4.2 trillion on the value of their holdings from the impact of climate change by the year 2100, even if global warming is held to a mere 2 degrees Celsius, which is a big question, if it could be held to that number. Anyway, if that didn't ruin your day, I don't know what will. 4.2 trillion. Now, this is a question to all panel members. There's only one question on this topic, so I think everyone could just come in as they decide it's necessary. As climate change is beginning to impact a range of economic issues, including national debt levels, agricultural output, such as wheat yields, and energy production, such as from hydropower, what reasonable steps can be taken now by the public and private sectors in order that national governments and business enterprises can be better prepared for and to mitigate the economic losses associated with property damage and business interruption, and so that the asset managers can better serve their clients? In other words, what are the steps that people need to take knowing what they know now for our region? Someone's got to be terrified enough to come up with an answer on this.
Yes. Well, climate change is one of the most difficult problems we ever faced because it concerns everybody and everything, all sectors of the economy, all society, all environment. And in order to tackle the problem, you need coordination of heterogeneous countries at different levels of development, different levels of understanding, of awareness, of natural capital, of of infrastructure, of human capital. So the problem with climate change is difficult to solve because by its nature it's a very complicated issue. Now, climate change, usually as researchers, we say that the first issue is to measure climate change. 20 years ago or 10 years ago, there was a huge disagreement with regards to the relevant numbers, with regards to the relevant effects on the temperature and the relevant effects on the different natural resources and then the relevant effects on the different economic sectors. So it is a chain that you have to translate, and every circle of this chain entails huge uncertainty. The scientific models on climate change are very uncertain, and this is not just uncertainty of known underlying distributions. So it is not only risk you are facing deep uncertainty. There is not a robust agreement between scientists on projections of climate change. So this is the first difficulty. Scientists do not exactly agree, although there is a built-in consensus, and I would say nowadays that 90% of the scientists that deal with climate change issue consider that this is a serious issue that we need to tackle and that we can tackle. Then, from the point of agreement that we are facing climate change, we need to move to the second step and understand the effects of climate change on natural resources and on society. Because if you have more floods, or if you have floods that you didn't have before, you have social problems as well. So you need to translate the effects of climate change on your capital, and we're talking about man-made capital, human capital, and natural capital. And on each sector of the economy that uses this capital in order to produce and also to consume this capital. And there is huge uncertainty on that point of the chain as well. It is not easy to translate the effects of an agreed amount of climate change. And then, even if you translate the effects, in order to incorporate them into policy making and management, you have to quantify the effects and even monetize the effects in order to include them into cost-benefit analysis and decide whether you have to mitigate and by how much, or whether you have to adapt and by how much does it cost to adapt, and how much does it cost to mitigate, and how much does it cost to do nothing. So you are playing with different scenarios. All your scenarios entail huge uncertainty, and this is before you call for an agreement between countries, and you need agreement because you are talking about an international public good. The actions of one country affect the other countries. So it is the most difficult problem, I think, we ever, as a scientific community, we had to face in an interdisciplinary framework, because you need a huge amount of different expertise to tackle it. I was part of the Stern review. I was part of the Greek climate change review because it exists. We try to quantify effects. We try to monetize effects. We tried to simulate effects and propose policy actions. It is difficult. It has been done, though. It is a first step, but it's also very challenging to get people to agree, not just because of all the uncertainties I've put on the table today, just now, but plus one other thing. it is about the long run. It is about intergenerational sustainability, intergenerational economic growth, intergenerational social equity. And there you have issues on how you discount what is equitable, what is efficient, what is sustainable environmentally. The uncertainties are huge, and the answers of the economies with regards to uncertainties, financial, socioeconomic uncertainties, like what is the correct discount rate in order to do a cost-benefit analysis on such a long-run phenomenon. The answers are not definite. There are answers, there is huge literature, but the answers are not definite. So it is a difficult problem.